The Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission is the national human rights institution and is one of 5 independent commissions supporting democracy in the country under Chapter 12 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. The functions of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission are to promote, protect, and enforce human rights and fundamental freedoms as provided for by the Constitution and other international instruments to which Zimbabwe is a party.
We also have the administrative justice mandate, which we inherited when the new constitution was promulgated in August 2013, and inherited from the former public protector, what used to be called the ombudsman, when his office was abolished and the Public Protector Act was repealed by the new constitution.
The Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission began full operations in mid-2014 and hit the ground running. By May 2016, it had been assessed by the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions and accredited with the highest level A status.
We also now have a voice at the Human Rights Council, where the UPR process takes place. We did submit our own report at the last review of Zimbabwe in March this year, and it was well received. We are also now a participating member of the NANRI, which is the Network of African National Human Rights Institutions. And recently, we have now been formally affiliated to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, and we are now a full member. So to us, it's a sign of us having complied with the international best practices they call the Paris Principles.
The Paris Principles provide guidance on the establishment of national human rights institutions in general, and also specify standards and principles that national human rights institutions must follow in order to function effectively.
We are an independent institution. This is what was respected by our government when we were set up, and this is what is provided for in the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. This is what is provided for in the Act, which is our enabling, our statute. And they've respected that. We have been, doing our work without any holds barred. To also not be easily intimidated, to be fearless tigers. This is what is required, in this job.
The Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission was given effect to by Constitutional Amendment number 19 of 2009. It was established by Section 100R of the Constitution, and commissioners were sworn in by the President on the 31st of March 2010.
We didn't have the operational legislation. We had the Constitution, which gives the broad framework of what our mandate is supposed to be, but we didn't have the legislation which then gives the details in terms of how we are supposed to operate.
We had no office, we had no staff, we had no cars, we had no pay, because there was no budget. So, but nevertheless, I think at the same time, we believed that the government was serious about this idea, this conception, this commission.
To meet part of its commitment to the establishment of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission as an autonomous body, the government purchased a block of offices just outside the Central Business District in Harare in 2011. However, at the time of purchase, the place needed serious refurbishment before it could be used. Despite all these challenges, the pioneering commissioners, with support from government and cooperating partners, carried out significant initial work and advocacy that laid the foundation for it to fulfill its mandate.
These were commissioners coming from different backgrounds in terms of their career paths, their educational spaces, and their competencies, and it was important to support their capacity development as far as understanding how to promote and protect human rights as outlined in the constitutional provisions.
One of the most significant tasks for the new commission was to lobby for an enabling law that would create an independent and properly capacitated Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission able to comply with the international standards set by the Paris Principles.
Eventually, it was accepted that the law itself would have the word independent. It would have been better to have it in the Constitution itself, and indeed now, in the 2013 Constitution, it is there. So that's a great advance.
In 2014, the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission began to move rapidly towards the fulfillment of its mandate.
So we want to take on expertise outside the Commission. So that's why we have thematic working groups where the Commission can now invite other stakeholders with expertise in different areas.
The next task was the setting up of the Secretariat, which was long overdue. From June 2014, there was rapid recruitment of key staff. By the end of the year, the Secretariat was in place.
So my first task at the Commission was to first of all clean the desk. And then fast track to April. We then began to have interviews. I wanted to blend the lawyers with social scientists and tried to have all languages represented in the Commission.
The Secretariat is headed by an Executive Secretary and 2 deputies responsible for programs and administration departments, respectively.
And one of the indicators of the impact that we have made as an institution is the increase in the amount of complaints that we are receiving from members of the public, but also the various requests that we are receiving from various institutions in the country, outside the country, to work with the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission.
The Commission inherited a backlog of cases from the Public Protector Office, almost 600 cases. And out of that, over the first year and second year of operation, we were able to move the bulk of those cases.
The Complaints Handling and Investigations Unit is at the core of the operations of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, with the role to receive and investigate complaints of alleged human rights violations.
We've got a manual in place, we've got systems in place that we are using, we've got a standard operating procedure, we've got timelines that when someone comes to the commission, we expect at least by 90 days we should have completed the cases. We don't want to be taking much longer than that. We want it to be a turnaround time that is short.
The work of the Education, Promotions and Research Unit is actually emphasized in the Paris Principles, which states that all national human rights institutions must promote human rights.
Been doing commemorations. We have developed information, education and communication materials, brochures, pamphlets to publicize the Commission, various engagements with policymakers, various engagements even with the media to ensure media coverage, engaging the public directly through strategies such as roadshows, and again mass distribution of IEC materials. We engaged the ministry during the time of the curricular review when they were developing the new syllabuses to ensure human rights education is integrated in the school curricula.
The Monitoring and Inspections Unit actually conducts visits and inspections of places of detention, rehabilitation and refugee camps to make certain the conditions meet the minimum standards of local and international human rights laws.
There are special boards that sit, a mental health tribunal is supposed to sit, and there was a period when these boards were not sitting. And following our visits, we made these recommendations to the Ministry of Health that it's a matter of urgency that they should sit. And within a few months, the special boards have started sitting. So far, I think we have done well, but we can do better if we have people in the provinces, if we have monitors all over the country who report on a situation instead of us relying on a media report.
We do have a very good working relationship with the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. We signed a memorandum of understanding sometime last year. Because this is an institution that is recognized in terms of the Constitution, it's not difficult for them to access communities.
And to date, we've also been working with them in trying to profile the dire water, sanitation and hygiene conditions in Epworth. And we believe, based on the memorandum of understanding that we've signed with them, that we are doing quite well with them.
We now have a constitution which is much better. And the important thing now is for our law to be properly aligned with our constitutional provisions.
And at the moment, one of the challenges we are facing is that we are located only in Harare and in Bulawayo. And we have been speaking to our government to make sure that at least in the short to medium term, we are able to be in each provincial center in the country.
And ensuring that, we are discharging our mandate without fear, without favor. We are committed to just doing this.
The challenges have been many and some still prevail, but the achievements so far fully deserve recognition and pride of place among peers and the Global Association of Human Rights Institutions.